Cocomelon.
Communication is the act of giving, receiving, and sharing information. In other words, communication works through talking, writing, and listening or reading. But we're not going to talk about communication in general, but instead, we're going to talk about nonverbal communication.
So, ano nga bang nonverbal communication? Well, nonverbal communication is the transfer of information using body language, including eye contact, facial expressions, gestures, and more. Everyone uses nonverbal communication all the time, whether they know it or not.
It is the process of sending and receiving messages without using any words, either spoken or written. Nonverbal communication is dependent on seeing and analyzing physical movements as opposed to verbal communication, or the use of language to transfer information through written text, speaking, or sign language.
Now we know what nonverbal communication is all about. Here are some examples. Some of them are facial expressions, gestures, eye contacts, appearances, and more.
First, we have facial expressions. Facial expressions are a form of nonverbal communication. They are used by humans to convey various types of meanings in various contexts. They are a primary means of conveying social information between humans. Based on observation of facial expressions typically associated with emotions, hypothesize that they must have had some instrumental purpose in evolutionary history. In short, facial expressions exhibit a wealth of expressions, from a half smile to a full-blown smirk to a casual eye shift. Our facial expressions demonstrate a range of emotions.
Eye contact. Eye contact occurs when two people look at each other's eyes at the same time. In humans, eye contact is a form of nonverbal communication and have a large influence on a social behavior. It is a type of body language that is extremely important during communication and conversation. Sometimes our eyes and body language speaks even more than words. Keeping eye contact with the person you are talking to show that you are actively listening and paying attention.
Next, we have gestures. A gesture is a form of nonverbal communication or non-vocal communication in which visible bodily actions communicate messages, either in place of or in conjunction with speech. Gestures include movement of the hands, face, or other parts of the body. Example of communicative gestures are waving, handshakes, saluting, pointing, or a thumbs up. There are voluntary and involuntary gestures. Waving to a friend would be an intentional method of saying hello, while throwing one's arms up in exasperation may be an involuntary reaction to feeling of frustration or anger.
Next, we have appearance. Our choice of color, clothing, hairstyles, and other factors affecting appearance are also considered a means of nonverbal communication. A research on color psychology has demonstrated that different colors can evoke different moods. Appearance can also alter psychological reactions, judgments, and interpretations. The appearance of the participants establishes their social identity. By our appearance cues, we often send messages designed to construct a social reality or social identity for ourselves that we could not and would not want to construct by verbal means.
There are a lot more examples of how nonverbal communication is performed, but the ones mentioned are some of the most common examples.
Alright, so here's an example of nonverbal communication performed by our experienced actors Elmer and Jordan.
Uy pre, may chismis ako. Mainit-init pa. Gusto mo? Tungkol kanino? Tungkol kay pre. Basta kay may issue kasi siya.
Now let's move on to nonverbal miscommunication. It occurs when there is a misunderstanding and misinterpretation between communicators. Miscommunication often stems from a misalignment of explicit and implicit meaning between the sender and the receiver.
That's why it is important to know how nonverbal communication works.
I do agree. Nonverbal communication plays a significant role in our life, as it can improve a person's ability to relate, engage, and establish meaningful interaction in everyday life. A better understanding of this type of communication may lead people to develop stronger relationships with others.
And that concludes our vlog about nonverbal communication. I hope you enjoy it, and peace out.